So we had our phones bugged when by the time I was about 12, 13 at home.
By whom?
By the paparazzi.
Hi, and welcome to the Storia podcast where storytellers disrupt. I'm David Noronha.
And I am Fabiano Altamura.
And before we get started with our very, very lovely special guest, please remember to like, subscribe, follow, give us that 5-star review. Brother, who do we have?
And today you are in for an absolute treat. We have the amazing Carrie Loyd. Carrie Loyd trained as an actress. She's an author. She's a pastor. She fosters children. She lives in the UK and in the US. She has got like a massive CV ranging from everything to everything and everything. And we're going to introduce her, and she doesn't really need to be introduced, but this is going to be a super fun episode. We're going to
that intro though, I wish it warrants adding, she's best known for mentoring Mother Teresa.
Am I?
She is. She
No,
is.
but after that phenomenal.
She's a little bit too young for that. I mean, she's like,
I've had
intro.
heaven forbid, Mother Teresa.
Welcome
So we're
to the studio,
super excited to have you, Carrie. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for fitting us in before you move back to the UK for like
I'm
6
we could do it
months.
this week.
I know, me too. So, Carrie, we're going to do a two-parter with you, which is super exciting. I know you're going to give us some insight into some of your worst auditions and some of your most embarrassing parts of the industry. But in the first episode, I want to talk about like what got you into acting, your journey kind of into drama school, your journey with faith. And then episode 2, we're going to talk about when the Lord called you to the US and everything that kind of exploded for you is here. So how did you get started to like want to even be involved in the arts? Like,
I don't know.
you have no idea.
I think I think we are wired with certain things before we have our feet on the earth.
Mhm.
So it's one of the dreaming board exercises I do when I'm coaching people is like, okay, well, let's just go right back to how you played as a child, because I feel like it's so indicative to what your destiny is supposed to be. And I was that one. I'm only child. So my parents would have their friends over. And I always thought they had been invited over for a show of mine. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were coming. I had no idea. Please wait in the dining room. I'm going to rehearse and
Dinner
practice
theatre.
for the next hour. Yeah. So then I would just jette off different pieces of sofa and furniture, to much to the shock and horror of my parents. But I loved shows and I loved plays and storytelling right from a very young age. And my father was an amazing storyteller, but he was also very, very big into oratory and diction. For example, Richard Burton or Laurence Olivier, some of our greats in the UK, he would make me turn my back to the television so I could hear the voice and the intonation and the diction and the delivery. So for some reason, he was so fascinated with the craft and delivery.
Wow.
And so that just was embedded in me as a kid. And then as I got older, I was obsessed with theatre. I loved anything dramatic, really, and mainly to avoid being dramatic in my own life. So I just wanted to sort of just keep that to the stage. I was quite shy as a child, but
You were?
theatre, I was very shy. I
Really?
really didn't know how to speak to people.
Oh my
I used to hide behind my parents. I know, it's quite shocking. I don't know what happened. But over the sort of journey, I found theatre to be my catharsis and my way of expressing emotions and how I was feeling. Even when we watched the show the other day, the PA, by the way, Bill turned to me and went, she's actually crying. And I went, that's what actors do. Bill. I don't know whether you...
I love that.
No, she's actually... No, did you think we're just sticking tear sticks?
Sticky tear sticks. Yeah, exactly.
So I had no problem expressing and being something on stage. Much harder to be myself in real life. And so always found it a cathartic space. So even during school, I was sort of daydreaming and wondering, but always thriving in performing arts. And I got the highest level, apparently. We just started doing performing arts as an A-level. And so I got the highest grades in the country over that particular
Oh my
time,
goodness, well done.
So it's sort of invented, and this is my greatest accolade today. And then from that moment, I just knew I just had to do it. Trained for RADA. RADA couldn't make their minds up about me. So, you know, they kind of do 3,000 auditions in the first round. They have to see everyone first round. They get rid of half of them by second round. And that's in front of the principal and then the guest panel. And the principal came out and said, oh, I was drawing the Japanese on your top. I thought, oh, I haven't got it. because why would he be drawing whilst I'm doing a monologue of Shakespeare or some kind of piece? Why would he be drawing what's on my top if I wasn't that captivating in the audition? So I thought I didn't have a chance. Then was asked for the full day workshop.
Wow.
And by that point, I was 18. Everyone else was about 23, 24.
Yeah.
Majority of people tried 2 or 3 times to get into RADA because there's only, 34 spaces, I think.
Yeah. And they like to accept people over the age of 21.
They
typically.
do.
Yeah.
And that's what the graduate had said to me when he was kind of helping us go around. He said, come back again next year because they really will be on the fence with you. But the majority of people, they're going to be taking the second or third time round in their early 20s. Unless you've got a famous parent, which I didn't have.
Yeah, but just going back a bit. So your dad, was he an attaché to Princess Diana?
That was kind of, I was 11 when he and her connected. So she had gone to see Mother Teresa in India. And Mother Teresa turned around to Diana and said, if you want to go and see the loneliest people in the world, go and see the leprosy patients in the local rehabilitation hospital, which was my father's hospital. And he was the executive director of the leprosy mission at that time. So she decided to kind of do a bit of a coup with the paparazzi, went off piece on her kind of schedule for that day, went to this hospital, took off her gloves at the beginning of the ward, and the doctors weren't ready at all. And but they just sort of let her come in, but she knew the paparazzi were behind her. So let them come into the hospital ward and then started touching every single hand and every face
what a woman.
of each leprosy patient, which blew the stigma off around the world. On the front of the tabloids the next morning, it was "Don't do it, die." And my father saw the press titles on the tabloids and called Kensington Palace and spoke to Patrick Jefferson, who was her private secretary at the time, and said, I just wanted to pass on a message to say what she's done in 5 minutes we've been trying to do for 120 years.
Come on.
And he went, could you just hold the phone one more? And so he goes away, comes back, he said, Tony, could you just say that one line one more time? He said it again. And then the next voice was Diana's, and she went, Tony, what you're doing out there is extraordinary. How can I help? And he said, well, you can be our patron if you like. So that began their relationship. And so it's amazing actually what doors open when you initiate a thank you. It's actually quite fascinating how many doors I've noticed when you initiate a thank you before anything. And so quite cheeky of my dad, because she already had about 120 charities, but she said, yeah, absolutely. And so then they traveled an awful lot. He became quite a confidant to her because there are so many people invading her life all the time. And obviously Dad's job as a Baptist minister was to keep confidentiality. He'd lose his job if he didn't.
Yeah.
So we had our phones bugged by the time I was about 12, 13 at home. And so that's why I've been so funny about privacy and confidentiality and how precious it is to anyone of influence.
By whom?
By the paparazzi. So we had people sort of bugging our phones at home. And so we had like guys in limos with suits come up outside our 3-bed semi-detached house in a little village. And they said, Tony, you're going to have to start doing your phone calls from your office, and we're going to give you a special line so you and her can have conversations that aren't bugged by anybody else. And I was, I was thinking,
is that illegal?
Oh yeah, totally. But they were those times where you had those cordless analog phones,
There was no way. Yeah, those were easy to hack.
So someone on CB radio down the street could have listened into it really easily. And one of the things that I was thinking though was not poor Princess Diana. What I was thinking was like, I sang Wonderwall down the phone to my boyfriend last night. And I'm just wondering how many people listened to that. Like I was just so...
It was the dawn of social media.
Yeah, totally. So from that moment on, I realized confidentiality, especially with any kind of limelight or influencer in any kind of sphere, needs confidentiality and safety.
Yeah.
And so I'm really glad I watched that. But my dad also would make sure that even though I might be around the likes of Princess Diana and prime ministers and heads of the Church of England and all that, he would also chuck me into spaces of the homeless, the destitute, the dying, the lonely, because he didn't want me to just only be used to one particular demographic of people. He wanted me to be balanced and level, and to be very aware that if you're going to have favor, you do it for these reasons,
right? Of course,
and you make sure that you're coming back to those that need the voiceless, basically. Yeah.
And you went to her funeral as well, didn't you?
I was at her funeral, about eight rows behind the royal family. And probably one of the most historic days I've ever... have you ever been in one of those moments where you're like, this is a historic moment?
No, not like that,
Karen. And I'm bang in the middle of it. I've never had that feeling. I don't think maybe ever since either. But having all the heads of state across so many different countries, I mean, it's security risk-wise, it was absolutely terrifying. But even then, you know, if we came out of the cathedral and we had a program in front of us and we're holding a program and the paparazzi are running after us, I'm like, they haven't learned. We haven't learned anything. So,
I mean, she was even... She was a powerful figure. I mean, to the extent that I remember actually staying home from school to watch her wedding.
Wow.
Oh yeah, no, it was a
You're
big
that old.
deal. I am
that old.
It's a fantastic dress she had.
I remember when she died.
She hated that dress.
What when the
Apparently.
the dress
she
that
hated
she
that
got
wedding
married.
dress because it creased so much.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I remember when she died. I was sat in our we have a beach apartment in Italy, and I was sat on the balcony, and I think it was my mum came and said, Princess Diana's died. I remember that being, oh my goodness,
shocking.
that was so shocking.
She was the most I mean, we didn't have social media at the time either, so she was the most famous woman in the world, I think, at that time, most photographed woman in the world.
She was the real Disney princess. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like she was on that level. Question, Carrie, obviously your father sounds like a pretty powerful figure in your life, and the way that he handled celebrities and confidentiality. I'm curious how that's informed your journey as a creative and even your creative process. Has that become a part of who you are and how you make what you make?
What I recognize so much, I think once I started getting into the film industry, so obviously I went to Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts. I didn't want to wait another year.
Which was
RADA.
Paul McCartney's school, wasn't it?
Paul McCartney's school, and that's when you're really rich, when you buy your own old school out and make it into a famed school. And make it after your dreams. So yeah, he used to do masterclasses with the musicians. I was a manager, so I was learning how to manage art. I wanted to be a little bit more powerful in the industry than just being an actress. And I knew I wasn't, you know, supermodel level. So I didn't really know, you know, I was in some films. 51st State, I seem to remember, was a film with Samuel L. Jackson.
You were in 51st State?
I was a dancer in it.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That was a good film.
It was a very fascinating film.
Yeah.
I became very close to the director, so I was hanging out with him an awful lot. And I think from that moment on, I learned so much about just watching people. Those that did have clout in the industry often felt very lonely and were so often pulled on and drained on. And you would watch them sort of come, same with Diana, really. Anyone of this kind of clout, people would look at them in awe, but you could also feel the sense of like, oh, you're being missed every time someone says hello to you. They're so excited. No, not seen at all. And so there would be times where I'd start to go, how does this person get to feel known? How do they get to be seen fully? And I would purposely never want to pull on any of them, which is what made you feel safe for them.
That's
because I never wanted to pull on them.
Right.
And so then you would often be that person getting the phone calls going, I'm in a crisis, what do I do? You know? But if someone would say, oh, don't you know so-and-so? I'd be like, if they've passed away, then yes. But if it was when Diana was alive, I wouldn't probably acknowledge too much, unless it was my school girlfriends because they were aware of what was going on. But I'd just always be very, very delicate because you can start to make that your identity, being connected to these people of influence. And you think you're really special.
And become one of the other sycophants as well. Yeah, just
it's awful. It really is awful. And the problem is you don't have that lovely proverbs of having the knife to your throat. You lose that ability to say no to them if you start to place them on a space of like, I'm identifying myself with you guys. So this is why we always come back to the craft in the industry, creativity. They're always fascinated with people that are just exploring and wondering and curious and have insight into things that they're still wanting to. And most of the time, most of these people got into their space or their favor because they were really rooted on the craft, or they were rooted in, I mean, for Diana, it was family. So she was obsessed with being with children all the time. And one of the things that I remember, there was one particular flight. Richard Branson used to give the front of first class basically to Diana whenever she was doing a charity trip. So Dad and the entourage they got last onto the plane. No one knew that she was on the flight. And there was someone just behind the curtain with a baby crying and screaming. And you could tell that this mother was just on her own, didn't know how to navigate. Everyone's getting mad with her and the child.
Oh.
And Diana's kind of looking through the crack in the window, and she's like, and she turns to Ken, her bodyguard, and she said, Ken, please, can I just go back there and go and help her? And he said, no, Mum, you really can't. You really cannot go through. No one knows you're on this flight. And she said, yeah, but we're up in the air now, so no one's going to do? Grab a gun. Like, it's just. And he said, Mum, please don't. It's just an absolute nightmare if we do that. And she turns to my dad and she goes, what do you think, Tony? I think, And he said, well, I mean, I don't really see why there would be a problem. And Ken's like, I'm going to kill
Ken's like, I'm going to kill you.
I'm going to absolutely destroy you. And she went, great. And so she goes through the curtain, opens the curtains up, and Dad just saw these faces kind of wide-eyed at who'd just come through. I think he was a flight attendant or something.
It's the most famous stewardess in the history.
I know, exactly.
My goodness.
And she goes, can I help you for a minute? I've got more room up there. And she went, just passed this baby up to this, it was a stranger apart from the most famous face. And so Diana took the baby, went behind the curtain. 5 minutes later, just walking up and down, just nursing this baby fell straight to sleep.
Oh,
and
that's tingles, man.
Handed the baby back over to the mother, who was now crying her eyes out by this point. And Diana turns and she said, it happens to the best of us. And she looks at everyone else to go, none of you helped.
Oh,
she gave the eyes, the Lady Diana eyes of like, and then basically handed the baby back over. And she came back through and Ken was like gripping himself with security issues now, thinking of getting off the plane. But at the same time, that was going to be a story that mother would die out for the rest of her lives. And also, and everyone else around.
She was, and how just she was laser focused, man. She would not be deterred.
Yeah. And the more rejection she faced, I think, and the more hurt she faced herself and isolation and loneliness, the more she was gunning for it, which is why I think, she was robbed from us.
Well, I don't want to get ahead to part 2 because I know that this sounds like all of this streams into who and what you are, but I want to pick up where you were at Liverpool. You were on the track to become a manager.
Yeah.
And talk to us a little bit about your escapades, your creative escapades in the UK.
I was basically, I wanted to be an actress, but I wanted to do this management degree course basically to try. And so we would do half of my module was acting, some of it was dancing. So kind of a little bit what BCA does. And it was great because there was 120 of us in each year. So it was quite a small year compared to other schools. And then I graduated and then I decided I was going to do a 5-year plan, which was basically be a casting director because I could feel like I could read people really well and I could match people right to a role because I used to just love the story so much.
That's so pastoral.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was able to read people, understand the motivations and the kind of clink. And one of the things I noticed with some of the TV sitcoms that have a sort of long-running thing, most of those characters or actors are very similar to their real character on some level. And so that's what I was always looking for, the genuineness of some actor that would fit beautifully into a role. So what I wanted to do is work for the top casting director by the end of 5 years. That was
Hubbard.
the 5-year plan. Yeah.
I got cast by Hubbard.
Did you really?
I did.
Was it Roz or Dan?
It
or John?
was John. John Hubbard cast me in Tomb Raider.
John. I love that John Hubbard guy.
Do you know him?
No, I don't.
Oh, no. He's huge.
I thought that was a classic American thing.
He cast me in my first movie, actually.
Which movie?
Tomb Raider 2.
Tomb Raider. See, they did all the big ones. And so I worked for Dan the son.
Yep.
More because John and Roz were starting to, although there was one hilarious moment, they were kind of like starting to wind down their work, handing more over to Dan Hubbard. And I was representing Roz some nights because, of course, we would go to theatre 3-4 nights a week because we're seeing as many actors. And Dame Eileen Atkins now,
oh my gosh,
was at the National Theatre. She was doing a beautiful play called Honor with Corinne Redgrave and this amazing actress, Anna Maxwell Smith, who is also a phenomenal actress. And she'd just come out of RADA, so I was incredibly jealous and envious and just crossing my arm all the time. And but she was phenomenal. And afterwards, I met up with Eileen, and Eileen went, "Roz, so lovely to see you." And I went, "Oh no, I'm not." I was so worried about disappointing her. I was, "Oh no, I'm Carrie. Roz couldn't make it tonight, but I just here." And she went, "Oh, that's fun, Roz. So, did you want any Chinese? Did you want?" And she called. After the third time, I decided to call myself Roz because it was just easier.
Yeah.
But phenomenal actor. Again, the most beautiful. She plays Queen Mary in The Crown. She just does that stunning. She just plays so beautifully. I seem to remember even the National, she was holding a cigarette the whole time. It's this extension of her arm. But yeah, I loved that casting director role was beautiful because I was getting to see the other side of the casting journey, how you would get people into a space, how you would there were times that obviously names would really pack a punch in regards to financing a film. So they were often trying to get very large names, but I was much more excited about the young ones that no one knew about.
Right.
And I would remember reading with people that I were like, they've got it. They've got the thing. They've got that little X factor.
Je ne sais quoi.
Oh, je ne sais
Je ne sais quoi.
Oh, did you ever do any French acting?
I did do French, about 13 years, darling. I did. I used to speak French fluently.
Did you do it in an acting role, though? Because I'd like to.
Wait, have you really taken French? How do I not know that you've taken French for 13 years?
So I spoke French better than I spoke Italian.
I didn't know.
I went to private boys' school.
Absolutely. I thought I knew everything about you.
I'm a trust fund baby.
Wow. Yeah, well, that I knew. That I knew, baby. Pampered.
I don't know about that.
Pampered.
No,
my
no,
God.
we used to. No, I
the
did.
next
Yeah.
play at BCA is now going to be
It's called
French.
Trust Fund Baby. Yeah, we'll do Tartuffe. Yeah, we'll do a Moliere play.
But there's a comma. It's trust fund, comma, baby.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Trust Fund Baby. Ding, ding, ding. No, anyway. Go on. So, sorry, continue.
Oh, it's brilliant. What was I saying? I'm totally
You were
lost track.
talking
You
about
like to find the younger generation, the ones that you were feeding. Okay, do you remember, did you break anybody?
Or even if they were 65 years of age and had never acted before, and I saw them on a bus and I'd be like, I think we found Fred for such and such.
Oh, wow.
Did you ever break somebody's career? Can you look back and go,
I never got that far up in the realm of hierarchy and casting to being able to do that. By the time I was 23, my father passed away and I moved back home. So then I started working in publishing magazines, and that's when with EMAP at the time it was called. So they had 150 titles of magazines, everything from FHM, Empire, all those kind of things. So those are all of the ones that I was working in the marketing world of things. Wow. But I was also acting in theatre. Yeah. So I would have breaks into theatre, but I decided that I'd prefer to do, I did some films, but they were just like a random dancer in the middle of a, crowd scene. I do remember though, no, I probably can't share that on.
Why not? It's because of our audience.
We all have BC tastes.
Exactly.
I just remember.
We all have those roles, Carrie. It's okay.
Well, it was a scene that Samuel L. Jackson was doing, and he was testing a super drug in this massive club in Liverpool, and he throws out these smart.
Oh yeah, the placebos.
The placebos. Yeah, very.
I do remember it, and it was the actress was. Who's the actress in that?
Emily
Mortimer. Emily Mortimer. Yep.
Fans was in it as well. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I guess it was. Gosh,
Robert Carlyle was my favorite. That was a very uncomfortable moment as well. I've had most of my journeys with famous people normally start with embarrassing experiences.
Really?
And then they giggle or laugh next time they see me because they remember the last
Which
time
is a great segue. So we were going to share. Speaking of embarrassment and shame, we were going to share.
Go into
let's go there. Most embarrassing moment, Carrie.
Because I really need to hear your guys.
Oh, you need to hear.
I always ask this question with every actor.
Yeah.
The most excruciating one. Well, my favorite is, sorry to say this. My favorite is a friend of mine, very well-known actor in England. And when he was getting into like all of these different auditions, he had a fantastic manager, but he was just so bored of going to so many different auditions. So he decided to pretend that he'd been bitten by a dog before he came in to the audition scene.
Just to add another layer of complexity.
And say, it just really, really hurt my leg. This dog outside and then the next thing would be, he'd be doing this kind of skit for so many auditions. He came back in to read for something completely different office. But it was obviously the same casting director because he goes, I just got bitten by a dog. And he went, that's funny because that happened the last time he came in. This is awful. Just those kind of stories where someone's like, thanks very much, it's great to meet you all. And then they walk into a cupboard rather than the exit door. Like those kind of things, I just relish. My life lives for those stories.
Well, I think I may have shared one of mine already.
Being naked on Broadway.
Well, there's that one, but that wasn't embarrassing at all.
That was a proud moment.
That was a proud moment, though it was a cold day on the Great White Way, Carrie. But
Stage right was very cold that night. There was a breeze.
There was a breeze.
Oh my God!
Yes, indeed. But no, maybe my most embarrassing moment, I think, and I've had a few, but was I think I shared this. It was on the set of NYPD Blue. Did I share this one with you?
I can't remember. Maybe.
So I'm young in my 20s.
Usually just drown it out.
You do,
yeah. Speak, but
it's just always enough about you. What do you think about me?
Exactly. Yeah.
So sharing. Anyway, back to me.
I had to smoke, and I'm not a smoker, and I decided to choose Marlboro Reds because my dad.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I know. I went from like ninja level 5.
Gosh, my word.
So I buy a pack. And for continuity's sake, I'm going through my scene and I'm walking around the block and I'm trying to figure out when I'm going to inhale and do the whole thing, and I'm going to ash. And so I get to set and I'm like, all right. And I decided I'm going to smoke 1 cigarette during the scene because it was written in the action. So I get to set and they say, do you need us to provide you with cigarettes? I said, no, I got a pack. So what I don't know about NYPD Blue is that the leads have not learned their lines because it's like season 12 of the show. They're like completely phoning it in. They're learning their lines while we're doing this because, you know, they shot 8 pages the day before.
Oh.
So it literally starts. I still remember my character's name. Character's name was Gabe, and I was like a drug mule. And you know, it's an typical interrogation scene. So it's like the two of them around the table, and they're like, "I know what you did, Gabe. You had the drugs, didn't you? You had the coke, yeah." And I light up, and so I smoke. And over the course of the thing, so I'm inhaling, and I'm doing, and I'm tapping, and I'm mashing, and I'm doing the whole thing. It's take after take.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm smoking a full cigarette each take.
Gosh, dude,
because I'm such a novice. We break. We go to lunch. I have a tuna sandwich.
Oh my God.
Never eaten tuna sandwiches.
No.
Fish and smoke. What a combo, dude.
Come back. I've finished an entire pack during lunch. I come back and the blonde who has a husky, because she's actually a smoker. She's like, are you feeling all right, sweetie? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. They call action. It's now my close-up. I come out on set.
I'm going to vomit.
I know what you did, Gabe. I know what you did. You had the drugs. And I'm like,
oh, and then we sick.
Oh no.
And I turn and I vomit all over her shoes.
Oh.
Then I turn in the other direction.
That's disgusting.
Projectile vomit of tuna all over. It was convulsive.
Wow. I think I'm going to be sick now.
Like 6 times I vomited.
6 times?
They bring a bucket.
I mean,
they bring a bucket to set. Okay, so the director, finally they cart me off set because I'm projectile vomiting.
Oh, the smell in the room.
They had to clean it all up. And then I had to finish my close-up because they only had like 1 or 2 takes. So if you watch it, I'm ashen, pun intended.
I'm going to need to see that episode.
Oh, my Lord.
Okay.
So the next day, I tell the director, please, please, please don't tell the Stephen Bach, known to be a bit intense.
Oh.
I said, please don't tell him. Like any of this is going to keep. So I'm in the makeup trailer, and oh my gosh, the Hispanic guy that was on the show for so many seasons, Jimmy Smits,
yeah,
who's like a legend to me because he's Hispanic, I'm Hispanic, and so he's getting his makeup done, and Botchko is standing there next to him. He's an intimidating figure,
right?
And they're talking, and I'm just trying to be invisible, like I'm just receding into the makeup chair, just turning my face as much as possible. Sweetie, can you turn this way? I'm doing your makeup. I don't want. And then Botch, all of a sudden I hear Botch. He had this low voice. He's like, and how are you feeling this morning?
Oh my gosh, that is terrifying.
So tuna sandwich projectile vomit over ladies' shoes. Cut 2.
Wow.
All right.
I've got nothing to top that.
So I'm in Santorini filming this movie. And
you have your shirt on, or your
I have like a what do you call it? A
like
singlet,
Italian fisherman singlet.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm on about to do my take, and then Angelina Jolie comes at the top.
Yeah, she does. I love the way that you just dropped
and she reveals herself.
Oh. Was that for the scene or
for the scene? So no. So anyway, this is so surreal.
Are we talking top? We're talking top.
Top.
Okay.
So she wears this silver outfit, and they put diamonds in a specific place to make a woman look specifically
right.
Oh.
So she pulls her top to the side and she goes, "Do you like my boob?"
Right.
And I'm
part of the script.
No, this is before we shoot. This is all off camera.
Breaking the ice.
So I'm looking at Angelina Jolie going, and I just did not know what to say. And I'm like, "Hi," and he goes, "Director, Jan de Bont says, "Okay, let's go for a take."
Let's move forward.
And I'm like, literally have no idea what to do with this. She's the first.
I mean, what do you do?
I just went. I think I just nodded and went, yes. Wow. It was so weird, but obviously it wasn't exposing her, but it was the thing underneath. But I was like, that was so interesting.
She's so beautiful in real life anyway. She's so captivating.
She is very, very pretty. Mm-hmm.
He's still catching his breath.
Yeah. I still get I blush. My goodness. I'm like, my goodness. Wow. So anyway, that was probably my most embarrassing moment. Not as embarrassing.
Heck of a lot better than projectile.
Yeah, I think I'd rather yours than
fish. Oh yeah,
David's
I would definitely rather mine.
So no embarrassments, Miss Loyd. I mean, I know that you're très élégante, but
well, I mean, talking about it depends the scenario. Many different awkward moments that were embarrassing, but I one that was like, oh, this is more like. I cried. It was so embarrassing. It was one of those, which was basically, we were doing All My Sons.
Oh, come on.
Oh, great.
I want to direct that next year.
Oh, do.
Brilliant piece.
It's such a
Blithe
good piece.
Spirit or
All
My Sons.
Spirit.
Exactly.
Blithe Spirit, I think, was the last show I ever did.
Okay.
And I loved playing Elvira. She was just a magical role.
Mm.
Oh, gosh. And they've just done the remake of the film with Judi Dench.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh.
Jennifer Saunders just did it at the theatre in England, and she was a fantastic Madame Arcati. Anyway, it's such a brilliant. The Margaret Rutherford black and white with Rex Harrison movie was smashing, but every time they do a remake, they always manage to do another brilliant version of it. My embarrassing moment was All My Sons. I have to go off
Are we playing
stage. I think so.
Okay.
I can't remember the character. How old was I? Well, I was being about 20.
Okay, probably then.
I was about 24 when I played.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to go off stage, and I think the son and the father are on stage. So I have to leave so I'm out of earshot.
Mm-hmm.
I have to get off stage. Mm-hmm. To the left, stage left is just a wall, so I can't go off stage left. Stage right is an ocean, so I have to go through this door. And I go to open the door, and I cannot open the door. And I really start tugging on it pretty aggressively, and then the entire door handle crumbles in my hand. And I just look at the two of them, and then I'm in a full house theater, and I'm still staying in an American accent. I say something like, I think I whispered very quietly, I can't get off stage. and I was trying to figure out, can I go stage left, stage right? And it's all in the space of 15 seconds.
Sure.
To a point where I'm like, these guys are going to start laughing if I don't. Anyway, some stagehand managed to figure out that I couldn't get off, and they managed to open up the other side. I cried for the entire interval and sorted myself up.
Oh my gosh, wow.
I thought you were going to say you improvised that you were going to go for a swim off to the other side.
I should have done. I should have absolutely done. Why didn't I do that?
No. So we've hit like Diana, we've hit some stories, man.
Some diamonds, some might
vomit
say.
with smoke
some
breath.
Jewels have been shared and revealed.
Some inappropriate revealing of people's anatomy. Oh, please do.
One that I'm just thinking of now.
Go on, tell me.
We were talking about 51st State, Robert Carlyle.
Yeah.
And at that time, he was one of my favorite actors. So I was 20, 21, I think. Because I was still at university when we were filming this, and the director was like, do you want to come I'm in London, do you want to come? This is after the film had been wrapped. He said, do you want to come and sit in ADR, come and hang out with me for the day? So I sat in, and Robert was doing some solo pieces, and there was a very intense makeout scene with him and Emily Mortimer. And so he was doing the sound effects of him kissing her and making out with her and having this lovemaking scene.
Oh, wow.
And thankfully I obviously wasn't doing the voiceover for her, but it was just the most uncomfortable moment because he's kissing his own arm to make the sound effects. But I'm just sitting there on the sofa watching the screen whilst he's sitting to my left. And it's all so deadly quiet. I've never been more uncomfortable in my life. And I also had a bit of a crush on him as well. So I didn't really know how to be with him at the time. So I just thought he was so, from Train Spotting to all of the films he's done, he's just one of my favorite actors of all time.
You were thinking, to be that wrist, that hand, that arm.
Would you like me to step?
Yeah,
and B, the wrist.
The hand substitute.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fun. I mean, gosh, I don't.
Oh, you have another reveal. You're going to go there.
No,
we may
this
never
is the
end.
tell-all.
I don't know. I don't even know how to do this. I'm going to pay for this one.
How's Claire going to feel about this?
She knows, but I don't know if our listeners know, but I remember, oh Lord, please forgive me. So, don't. So I remember the first love scene I ever did.
Oh no.
This is the hook of the episode.
Oh no.
I remember, oh Lord, I remember having to do the noises in the director's
theater or in theater.
No, this was in film.
Okay.
And
I think it's worse.
yeah, and I remember doing the noises into the flipping boom, and it's the most embarrassing thing because you've got the woman next to you, and then you're having to make these noises, and it's just hideous.
I'm surprised they don't like set up a bed and put just a mic. I mean, I'm not.
No.
Those
scenes were afterwards.
That's horrible.
Those scenes were afterwards, and I no, never again.
For that.
No,
we're
not.
We weren't ever.
And just so you know, love scenes are the most technical, awkward, and choreographed scenes, and I don't advise anybody to do.
My favorite line, and we'll end on this one, is from Denzel Washington. He tells every female lead that he has to do a sex scene with. He says, "Don't be offended if it does. Don't be offended if it doesn't."
And another one who I really respect, Neil McDonough, who is like one of the quintessential bad guys.
Yeah.
He, because he's a believer, has never kissed a woman, and he was blacklisted by Hollywood.
You joke.
And he said, well, the thing is, he says he'll do a violent scene.
Yeah.
Because you shoot somebody, they're not dead, and then you go to the pub afterward.
Right.
But when you kiss somebody, there's still an intimacy there. I don't know if I necessarily agree with him, but I respect his choices.
Yeah.
Completely respect that
It's a shame
boundary that he has.
Blacklisted for that reason.
Yeah.
Is that the reason why black, or was it something?
I mean, blacklisted in the sense, but I'm still he's still in Yellowstone. He's still in all these massive movies, but
he paid a price.
He paid a price for it. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to come back for part two.
For more interesting stories. You've been listening to the Story Podcast with Carrie Loyd. Don't forget to tune into part 2.
See you soon.